Hello everyone, welcome back to Second Viewings, the show where I take a look back at these movies I watched for the first time back in 2018 to 2021 and see how they hold up on rewatch. So without much prompting, I decided to reread Frank Miller's Batman The Dark Knight Returns, and so far I'm really loving it. I love the grimy noir atmosphere, the heavy shadows, the take on this older, jaded Batman. Needless to say, it got me on a bit of a Batman kick, so for this episode, I decided to rewatch what is widely considered one of the best Batman movies, Batman: Mask of the Phantasm. So if you're unfamiliar with this movie, it's a continuation of the Batman animated series which aired back in the 90s. This is where Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill got their start as Batman and the Joker respectively, and are now widely considered some of the best portrayals of those characters. I've only seen a handful of episodes of the show personally, but trust me when I say, watching the show isn't a requirement to enjoy and understand this movie. While I'm sure watching more of the show would add to the experience, it's still very self-contained. The titular Phantasm is a unique character to this movie, and it even features Batman's origin, albeit in the form of flashbacks. The film follows Batman as he tries to uncover a mystery behind the identity of the Phantasm, a ghostly figure who is killing off members of a gang one by one. Throughout the film, we're shown flashbacks to a time where Bruce Wayne met and formed a romantic relationship with a woman named Andrea. Right off the bat, I want to say that one of the best aspects of this movie is the love story between these two. I don't know how hot of a take this is, but I don't think many superhero movies have done romance particularly great. Not that it's always bad, but it's always been one of the least interesting parts. Most of the time, it just feels like the hero has a love interest because the script and studios demanded it. And in some cases, it's just straight up awful. Like, I love the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, but easily the worst part about them is the romance between Peter Parker and Mary Jane. Here though, a good chunk of the film is taken up by these two having nice, casual conversations and naturally connecting with each other, and they have really good chemistry as a result. It makes it all the more tragic when their personal lives start getting in the way of what could have been a normal, prosperous relationship. Bruce believes that he is unworthy of living this happy life, fearing that he's disrespecting his deceased parents and that what's more important is being the protector he wishes he had when they were shot and killed. Andrea, meanwhile, is dealing with her father doing business with the very group of gangsters that the Phantasm would later start killing throughout the film. I love the bit where the two of them go to this future emporium attraction showing how their future looks bright, and then that's later contrasted with it years later in ruin and being inhabited by a psychotic criminal like the Joker. It's very on the nose for sure, but still an effective way to illustrate the tragic downfall of this relationship. And like I said, this is actually a really good Batman origin story. I love how the film opens with Batman in his prime, taking out a bunch of gangsters, and that's also later contrasted with a flashback of Bruce trying to stop a robbery for the first time, and while he's successful in the end, you can definitely tell he's not as experienced. I love how this movie essentially took the out-of-order storytelling approach 12 years before Batman Begins came out. And the flashbacks aren't some gimmick, it makes sense to tell the story this way. Another weird, just totally insane thing about this movie that makes it stand out from other Batman movies is something I thought was truly unheard of in superhero cinema. And that is the fact that this movie is an hour and 16 minutes long. I didn't think it was possible to make any superhero movie, let alone a Batman movie, under 2 hours. But this is just so quick and brisk with no fat to trim. It doesn't overstay its welcome. In fact, on my first couple of watches, I originally didn't like how I didn't get much time with these characters and everything went by too fast, but I don't know what it was about this rewatch, but it just felt so much better paced. In terms of characters, like I said, I really like Bruce and Andrea and their relationship. The Phantasm is a cool villain. I won't say much about them because I don't want to risk getting into spoilers, but thankfully there is one villain I can talk a little more in depth about. The Joker is a ton of fun in this. He hides out in this now ruined future emporium place, like I said, and the models and animatronics there are utilized in some really fun set pieces. It helps that he's used sparingly in this movie, only showing up late in the film when one of the gangsters, fearing he'll be the Phantasm's next victim, turns to him for help. In terms of issues, there are some line reads that were a bit awkward. The voice acting overall is great, but there's one moment in particular where Bruce puts together that the Joker was one of the members of the gang that the Phantasm is taking out, and when he figures this out, he says, "Oh no," in such a weird and awkward way. I love Kevin Conroy as Batman, don't get me wrong, and I like him in this movie, but there are a few weird ways he delivers lines that took me out of the movie for a bit. During one of the flashbacks where he's stopping the robbery, he fights off the robbers and he just goes, "Yes," and I thought that was a bit too cheesy. That being said though, similarly to the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, I think the movie is pretty cheesy and campy, but in a way where it feels like it's embracing its comic book roots. It's a great blend of fun superhero silliness and an actually compelling story. Again, I don't think you have to have watched the show in order to enjoy this, so there's no real barrier to entry. So check it out regardless of how much of it you're versed in.
Batman, Mask of the Phantasm, the animated movie.